11 in the Premier League, so Manchester City emerged as the biggest winners of the weekend. And for you to exactly know how that happened, please make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe on this video, on this channel, so that you get notified whenever I upload. And let's do it, get right into it. So the big one of the match week was Manchester City welcoming Liverpool to the Etihad, a place where Manchester City had lost the last two matches against Liverpool, who are the champions now. So the defending champions came to Manchester trying to make sure that they get something from the match, especially now that they had got into some rhythm, so to speak, after beating Aston Villa, who are in a very good patch coming into that game, and Real Madrid, who they don't need any introduction to see how good they always are. So with these two matches having gone Liverpool's way, they came into this one knowing that they could upset the third team in a row. With the way that Manchester City set up to play this match, they had Liverpool on all the ropes. They knew exactly where to hurt them and how to hurt them to make sure that they stopped them from creating anything of note, and also making sure that they control possession exactly the way they wanted it. And Pep Guardiola is someone who we know to be sort of a control freak on a football pitch, especially the way he wants his teams to control the match, to play football, to attack and to defend. And coming into this one, they were having home advantage. There is no way they are going to sit in a low block as they did at the Etihad during the season, where they got 1 point. So they came into this one and they knew that the best way to the balance between defending low and high is defending right in the middle of their half. So that is where the defense line was set up. They were not too high and not too low, and this led to them shrinking the pitch for Liverpool. They reduced the pitch where Liverpool could play. So the intricate one-touch passes couldn't really work because there were a lot of men in the middle of the park for Manchester City. And you could see this when Jeremy Doku, in the beginning of the first half, made sure that they tucked right into the center of the pitch. And as the match progressed, they started, getting back out to hug the touchline. And with this kind of setup, it made sure that Liverpool couldn't play through Manchester City's formation. And with that also, they couldn't play around it because there wasn't enough space. It was quite difficult for Liverpool to even play, because when they tried to prepare the match, they would start from the goalkeeper, Mamardashvili, then play it to Virgil van Dijk, then or Ikonate. Then once it hit the fullbacks, that was the end of the part of the build-up which they could control, because they couldn't find someone in the midfield. That someone in the midfield couldn't run long because the offside trap was in the works. They couldn't lob those balls forward, especially with Manchester City having the bigger players, the large amount of bigger players on the pitch. So you couldn't play it long. You could be intercepted. So in that kind of way, they made sure that they nullified Liverpool from trying to create, which led them to trying to spray it long with Virgil van Dijk trying to find more. And it was not really sustainable because sometimes Mo couldn't get the ball because it was fizzed out with a lot of intensity to try and relieve pressure off the defense, more than just having to make a pass. So with this kind of play, it made it difficult for Liverpool to have a hold of the ball for quite long, especially because they are a team that like to try and build up to try and create chances. So with that part being done, the next part was attracting 1v1s. Attracting 1v1s from wingers, and especially in this match, the bulk of the match was being played down the left-hand side, where Jeremy Doku was having the beating of Conor Bradley 9 out of 10 times, especially because Doku is very successful on take-ons, and this is across all metrics in Europe. And per game, he usually creates 4 to 5 direct take-ons against his man. And this was the unlocking that they needed, because when Doku had the ball, 1v1 was really something that Liverpool couldn't really afford, because this would put Conor Bradley in jeopardy, and he could have been sent off quite early on, because In the Premier League, it's very different from the way UEFA manages the Champions League. So every slight amount of contact in the Premier League can warrant a yellow card. And because Jeremy Doku was having the beating of Conor Bradley, it was really something that Liverpool had to make sure that he is not isolated most of the times, because he would get a card, or when he was on a yellow card, then it would be so easy for Doku to target him, to try and get him sent off. So it was smart for them to try and double team on Doku, and this was not to distort the back line. They made sure that Ryan Gravenberch would come from midfield to come and double team his teammate on the right to make sure that they stopped Doku. But what this did was leave space behind Doku and Conor Bradley, which Doku was more than happy to explore. And when he pushed the ball into space, whoever would touch him would get a card. So he was quicker than both of them. He was more agile in the box. He knew that if you touched him, it's either a penalty or it's a foul. So in the first half, they did get a penalty through the same channel, with Doku getting into the box and very rapidly going into the box, which Erling Haaland did not convert. But with that aside, the rest of the match, he was having a field day. Once he beat these two guys, it was almost natural that Ibu Konate would go and try to stop him. And when he did, there was more space between him and Virgil van Dijk, and that would help him try and find a man in between these two. And more certainly than not, that was Erling Haaland or Phil Foden in the first half. And when Erling Haaland gets into these kinds of chances, you are in trouble. You really are in trouble, because he's going to find one straight into the back of the net. As much as it did not happen this way, during one of those sequences when the ball was switched to the right hand side, it made Virgil van Dijk commit from left centre back to left back, and then Robertson had to cover him up. So when that switch was being made, there was space for Matheus Nunes to cross the ball into the box, and Haaland was isolated with Konate, which was a header that he shouldn't be winning. As much as he's strong and quick and very good in there, a little bit of stabilization didn't come from Konate, and yeah, he headed it in quite expertly, with no chance for the goalkeeper to make it 1-0. Immediately after the first half, Liverpool were on the back foot, and they couldn't crawl themselves up anymore, because it was Pep's control time territory. When he gets that kind of lead, especially against rivals that he knows could hurt them if they relinquished control, that is exactly why he needs to keep control for himself, and that is exactly what they did. They made sure that Liverpool could not create as many chances, and even when they did, it was half chances. This was Pep's 1,000th match in management, and it was very well executed from him. And taking this into account, he's won 716 matches from 1,000 that he's managed, which is an incredible achievement from any manager who has done that. And I think he is the greatest manager of this generation for sure, with the way he's played, with the way he's changed football, total football. And even with this, he's tried to make sure he brings his own DNA into it, because he's also a different manager from Johan, who also knew how to adapt and when to adapt. And when he did, no team could catch him, no team could get close to him. That's why he's won a lot, especially with Manchester City, where he's been the longest. I think even right now, he's very, very motivated to go and win the Premier League again. Now that moving forward to the Arsenal, who faced a great opponent in the name of Sunderland on Saturday, which was a beautiful match to see when Sunderland are at the Stadium of Light and the fans are around them. It's so difficult to get them off their game. And they used that very well and got ahead fast. And we could see that even in the Slavia Prague game in the Champions League, within the first 15 minutes, Arsenal were on the ropes. So the invincibility clock was somehow fading away. And now that it has actually been broken, they are going to feel like it's it's a game that they were hard done by. But in all truth, Sunderland were the better team in that match. They made more clear-cut chances. They could hurt Arsenal even more. Getting an equalizer at the very last minute of the match was some sort of a vindication, because they knew that they had Arsenal exactly where they needed them. So they could have scored 3 or 4 easy, but again, they had a very good point to share with the Arsenal from that match, which is something they take with a lot of pride, especially with the way they played, with the way they have been evolving through the season. They are doing better than many of the other teams imagined, and I think they stay up. They'll stay up with this kind of trajectory. They will pick more points from potential title challengers with only 4 points ahead. If they could be given these 4 points ahead going into the November international break, when the season started, they would have taken it. They would have taken it with both hands. But now, what is left for them is to make sure that between this international break in November and the one in March, that they make sure that they have that 4-point advantage going into the last 3 months of the season, which is going to be so difficult because Manchester City are hot on their heels, and Pep Guardiola likes playing as an underdog, so that the business side of the season, he makes sure that he hurts you exactly where you don't want to be hurt. And that is what he did the season before Liverpool won the Premier League, when he won 15 matches from February to May. So this is something that Arsenal need to be wary of if they have any chance to make sure that they see this home. They have to make sure that almost identical brand of perfect that they have been between this month of mid-September to late October, that kind of form that they carry it to between November and March next year. Moving elsewhere to Aston Villa and Bournemouth. Bournemouth have had a terrible 2 weeks, really, having gone to away for both matches. They have scored 1 and conceded 7 in those 2 matches. And this is something that they're not really thinking about, or they didn't really know could happen, especially the way they started the season over the past 7 or 8 matches. They had got a lot of momentum going into these last 2 matches, winning, dropping as little points as possible. But these last two losses to Manchester City and Aston Villa are going to hurt them a lot more than we could imagine, especially the mentality of the players. And it was advantage Aston Villa, who really needed to get out of the slump that they were in. But for Bournemouth, it's panic stations. But what they have is time to think about what happened during those 2 weeks and try and correct the mistakes that they have made during that period. But for Aston Villa, they'll be looking at that result and saying, now I think things have started working out well again. So why not keep that going? And for Manchester United, their match against Tottenham Hotspur at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium was one that they would really want to forget, especially having led the bulk of the match through the Bryan Mbeumo goal. They made sure that they were controlling the match until the 84th minute, when they let go of the lead, and they were on the losing end going into the 94th minute, so to speak. And that is almost similar to what happened during the Nottingham Forest match that they played a week prior, where they had the lead and then lost it, then had to come back and rescue a point from it. If they really wanted to continue with the ascent that they were on, that is something that they'll be looking to avoid at all costs, losing points from winning positions. So Manchester United will also have the time, of course, to go and intrinsically look at what they would have done better, how they can control matches more when they are ahead. And yeah, we'll be looking forward to seeing how these teams come back from the international break, having, of course, tried to fix issues that are affecting them. But for now, I really think it's advantage Manchester City, and you don't want Manchester City chasing you while you're trying to go and win your inaugural Premier League, because they need you to be perfect, near perfect at least, so for you to stop them. because they will win when you don't win. They will claw points from you. They will try everything that they can from their end to make sure that they get maximum points from their matches. And yeah, that was the story of match week 11 in the Premier League. If you enjoyed it, please make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And turn on the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I upload. I'll see you in the next video, and thank you for watching.